My family forgot my graduation on purpose. I worked for years, slept in my car, sacrificed everything for this degree. They chose my sister's casual barbecue over my graduation day. When I confronted them, Dad said, "Stop acting like a victim." That was the moment I realized I never mattered to them. So I changed my name, cut them off completely, and disappeared from their lives. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now let's dive into today's story. Oliver Rowan learned to make himself smaller before he learned to ride a bike. The house on Cedar Lane in Topeka, Kansas had 3 bedrooms, peeling paint on the south side, and a constant hum of tension that never quite settled. Money was always the elephant in every room, talked about in hushed, tight voices after dinner, argued over in sharp whispers that carried through thin walls, felt in the way his mother's jaw clenched when the mail came. But the real rule, the one that mattered more than anything written or spoken, was simple. Don't ask for too much. Don't need. Don't want. Don't expect. Oliver was 7 when he first understood this. His father, Harold, had been sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of bills spread out like accusatory cards. His mother, Denise, stood by the sink with her arms crossed, staring out the window at nothing in particular. The air felt thick, suffocating. "Can I do soccer this year?" Oliver had asked, holding the permission slip his teacher had given him. Other kids had already signed up. He'd watched them talk about it at lunch, their excitement infectious. Harold didn't look up. "Not this year, son. But it's only—" I said no. Harold's voice carried a warning edge, the kind that said the conversation was over before it started. Oliver folded the permission slip and put it in his backpack. He never brought it up again. 2 weeks later, his younger sister Talia announced she wanted dance lessons. She was 5, dramatic even then, with tears that came easily and a voice that could fill any space she occupied. "Please, Mommy, all my friends get to dance." Talia's lower lip trembled, her eyes wide and glistening. Denise had knelt down, brushing Talia's hair back with gentle fingers. "We'll figure something out, baby. Don't cry." They figured it out. Talia got her dance lessons. Oliver stood in the hallway, watching, and learned what he was worth. The years that followed carved that lesson deeper with each passing season. When Oliver needed a graphing calculator for high school algebra, he worked weekend shifts at a hardware store downtown, breathing in sawdust and listening to Mr. Patterson tell the same 3 stories about his time in the Navy. Oliver bought the calculator himself. Used. Scratched. But worked. When Talia wanted a new phone because hers was like 2 years old and totally embarrassing, Denise drove her to the mall that same afternoon. They came home with the latest model, a glittery case, and matching earbuds. Oliver's phone was a hand-me-down from his father. The screen cracked in 3 places. "You're so practical, Oliver," Denise would say, like practicality was a personality trait he'd chosen rather than a survival skill he'd developed. "Not like your sister. She's more sensitive." Sensitive. That was the word they always used for Talia. Sensitive meant her feelings mattered more. Sensitive meant she needed protection from disappointment, from hearing no, from reality itself. Oliver wasn't sensitive. He was responsible. Responsible meant he could handle it when things didn't work out. Responsible meant he didn't need comfort, attention, or acknowledgement. Responsible meant invisible. He graduated high school with honors. His parents attended the ceremony, sitting near the back, leaving early because Talia had a headache and wanted to go home. No celebration dinner. No photo on the mantle. Just a quick good job and a return to normal life. Oliver had stopped expecting anything else by then. College acceptance letters arrived in March of his senior year. Oliver had applied to 7 schools, all state universities within a 3-hour radius. Affordable, practical, achievable. He opened each envelope alone in his room, reading the words with a strange detachment, like he was reading someone else's future. The University of Missouri-Columbia accepted him with a partial scholarship. Financial aid would cover some of it. The rest he'd have to figure out himself. He waited until dinner to tell them. The kitchen smelled like overcooked chicken and instant rice. Harold sat at the head of the table, scrolling through his phone. Denise was cutting Talia's meat into smaller pieces, even though Talia was 17 and perfectly capable of using a knife herself. "I got accepted," Oliver said, setting his acceptance letter on the table between the salt shaker and the butter dish. "To Mizzou." Denise glanced at the letter, not quite picking it up. "Oh, that's nice, honey." She smiled, quick and distracted, then turned back to Talia. "Did you remember to text Rhett about Friday?" Talia groaned. "Mom, I told you, we're keeping it casual. Stop making it a thing." "I just want to meet him properly," Denise said. "He's been your boyfriend for 3 months now." Harold finally looked up. "Mizzou, huh? That's a decent school. You figure out how you're paying for it." Oliver kept his voice level. "Partial scholarship. Financial aid. I'll work." Harold nodded once, already looking back at his phone. "Sounds like you've got a plan." That was it. No excitement. No pride. No questions about his major or his dorm or what this meant for his future. 10 minutes later, Denise was on the phone with her sister, helping Talia coordinate furniture shopping for her first apartment. Talia was moving in with 2 friends after graduation. Denise had already offered to pay the first 2 months' rent and buy her a new couch. Oliver cleared his plate and went to his room. He'd been accepted to college, and his family had acknowledged it with the same enthusiasm they'd show for a weather report. The next 4 years were a study in survival. Oliver worked 30 hours a week at a campus dining hall, scraping congealed cheese off industrial-sized pans and mopping floors that never stayed clean. He took out loans despite his best efforts to avoid them. He lived in the cheapest housing he could find, a converted basement apartment with mold in the corners and a landlord who only fixed things when legally compelled. During finals week of his sophomore year, his hours got cut. Rent came due. Oliver slept in his truck for 3 nights, parked behind the library, curled under a donated blanket that smelled like mothballs. He showered at the campus gym before class, brushed his teeth in public restrooms, and told no one. He never called home to ask for help. They never called to check how he was doing. Talia, meanwhile, lived in a decent apartment with roommates who tolerated her chaos. When she needed money, Denise sent it. When her car broke down, Harold drove 4 hours to fix it himself and pay for the parts. When she switched majors for the 3rd time, they told her it was fine. She was still figuring things out. Oliver switched majors once, from engineering to business, because he calculated the return on investment and realized he couldn't afford another year of school. No one asked why. No one cared that he'd given up a dream to finish faster. He graduated in 4 years exactly, not a semester more. He couldn't afford to stay longer. Graduation landed on Saturday, May 14th. Oliver marked it on the calendar. He sent a text to the family group chat, the one where Talia posted memes and Denise shared recipes no one ever made. He followed up with individual texts to his parents. He called once, 2 weeks out, and told Denise the time, the location, the parking situation. "We'll be there," she'd said, distracted. He could hear Talia in the background, laughing at something on her phone. He sent a printed schedule in the mail, with his name highlighted and the ceremony time circled in red ink. A week before graduation, Talia called him. "Hey, so, I'm thinking of throwing a little barbecue thing," she said, her voice bright and thoughtless. "Just like casual. Some friends. Rhett wants a grill. You know how he is." Oliver was in his apartment, studying for his last final. When? Saturday, the 14th. Afternoon, probably. Super low-key. His stomach dropped. "That's my graduation." "Oh," a pause. "Right. Well, it's not a big deal. Just a backyard thing. Mom and Dad can probably do both, right?" "My ceremony is it too." Right. "Okay, I'll mention it." Her tone suggested she'd already moved on. "Anyway, can you bring chips or something if you stop by after?" "Talia, gotta go, Rhett's here. See you Saturday." She hung up. Oliver sat in the silence of his apartment, staring at his phone. He wanted to call back, to explain, to make her understand that this wasn't just a Saturday afternoon. It was 4 years of work, of sacrifice, of choosing to keep going when everything told him to quit. But he knew it wouldn't matter. She'd already decided it wasn't important, and his parents would agree. The morning of May 14th arrived with cloudless skies and warm air that smelled like cut grass and possibility. Oliver stood in his apartment wearing the one suit he owned, secondhand, slightly too big in the shoulders but clean and pressed. He adjusted his tie in a bathroom mirror, the cheap blue polyester one he'd bought at Goodwill. His cap and gown hung on the back of the door, still stiff and new. He'd imagined this moment for years. Not with excitement, exactly, but with a quiet determination. He'd made it. Against everything, he'd finished. He picked up his phone and called home. It rang 4 times. Music thumped in the background when someone finally answered. Laughter. The sizzle of meat hitting a hot grill. Ice clinking in glasses. Yeah. Harold's voice was annoyed, distracted. Dad, it's Oliver. I know. What is it? We're in the middle of something. Oliver closed his eyes. I'm about to head to the ceremony. It starts at 2. I'm in the parking lot near the... Oliver. Harold cut him off, sharp. We're at the house. Your sister's got people coming over. It's a whole thing. We can't just leave. The words landed like stones. It's my graduation, Oliver said quietly. Silence on the other end, except for the background noise. Someone laughed. Music changed tracks. Don't do this, Harold said finally. Don't make this about you. Your sister planned this. People are already here. We're not going to embarrass her by bailing. I told you about this weeks ago. I sent you. Stop acting like a victim, Oliver. Harold's voice went cold, final. You're an adult now. Act like it. The line went dead. Oliver stood there, phone in hand, in his borrowed suit and second-hand tie. Around him, other families were gathering. Parents fixing their kids' caps, taking pictures, hugging, crying happy tears. Excitement hummed in the air, tangible and infectious. He put his phone in his pocket and walked alone toward the arena entrance. The ceremony was a blur. Oliver sat in a sea of black gowns, his row designated by a letter he barely registered. Names were called in alphabetical order. When his turn came, he walked across the stage, shook hands with people he didn't know, and accepted his diploma in its leather folder. The applause was polite, general, meant for everyone and no one. He looked into the crowd once, scanning for familiar faces even though he knew they weren't there. The seats where his parents should have been sitting held strangers. People cheering for someone else's kid. When the ceremony ended, graduates flooded into the sunshine outside, finding their families in tearful reunions. Oliver walked to his truck, parked in the far corner of the lot. He sat behind the wheel in his cap and gown, diploma on the passenger seat, and let the silence settle around him. He didn't cry. Crying required an expectation that had been disappointed. Oliver had stopped expecting anything from his family years ago. What he felt was simpler, colder. Confirmation. This was who they were. This was who he'd always been to them. The responsible one. The one who didn't need anything. The one they could ignore without consequence. He drove back to his apartment, hung his gown in the closet, and went to work his evening shift at the dining hall. No one there knew it was his graduation day. He didn't tell them. 2 weeks passed before Denise noticed the change. Oliver had been packing methodically. Clothes into boxes, books into bins, kitchen supplies wrapped in newspaper. His lease was up at the end of the month. He'd accepted a job in Springfield, Missouri, 3 hours away. Entry-level position at a supply chain company. Nothing glamorous, but it was a start. He didn't tell his parents about the job. Didn't mention he was leaving. Denise called on a Tuesday evening. Oliver was wrapping dishes when his phone buzzed. Hey, honey, she said cheerful. I haven't heard from you in a while. Everything okay? Fine. Oh, good. Well, your sister is having a little get-together this weekend. Just family. Maybe you could drive up? It's been forever since we've all... I can't. I'm moving. Silence. Moving? Where? Springfield. I got a job. When were you going to tell us? Her voice shifted, confused now, a little hurt. I'm telling you now. Oliver, she sighed, that particular sigh that meant he was being difficult. You could have mentioned this. We would have helped you pack, or, like you help with graduation. The words came out flat, factual. No anger. Just truth. Denise went quiet. In the background, he could hear the television. Talia's voice asking who was on the phone. That was... Denise started, then stopped. Your sister needed. I'm not doing this. Oliver interrupted, his voice steady. I just called to let you know I'm leaving. I'll have a new number soon. Oliver, don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear. You made a choice. You chose her. You chose a casual barbecue over my graduation. That tells me everything I need to know about where I stand. It wasn't like that, Denise said, defensive now. You're taking this the wrong way. We were going to call you after, and you didn't. Oliver taped up another box. You didn't call. You didn't text. You didn't ask how it went. Because you didn't care. That's not fair. Maybe not. But it's true. He heard her breath catch, the beginning of tears or frustration. He couldn't tell which. I need to finish packing, Oliver said. Take care of yourself, Mom. He ended the call before she could respond. 3 days later, he loaded his truck and drove away from the house on Cedar Lane without saying goodbye in person. He changed his number the following week and didn't share it with his parents. If they wanted to reach him, they'd have to work for it. And Oliver knew, with absolute certainty, that they wouldn't. 3 years passed. Oliver built a life in Springfield that was small, quiet, and entirely his own. He rented a one-bedroom apartment in an older building with good heating and a landlord who actually fixed things when they broke. He worked his way up from entry-level to junior analyst, then to project coordinator. Nothing spectacular, just steady, competent progress. He made friends, careful ones, the kind built on shared interests rather than deep history. He dated occasionally, when nothing stuck. He went to the gym. He read books. He existed in a space where no one expected him to shrink himself to fit their needs. His parents didn't try to contact him. Not once. Oliver told himself he was fine with that. Mostly he was. The only connection to his old life was his Aunt Marguerite, his mother's older sister. Marguerite had always been different from the rest of the family. Practical, direct, unwilling to ignore uncomfortable truths. She'd reached out 6 months after Oliver moved, having gotten his new number from mutual acquaintance. Your mother's upset you're not talking to them, Marguerite had said during their first call, her voice carrying its characteristic bluntness. I'm sure she is, Oliver replied. You want to tell me what happened? So he did, not with emotion or drama, just the facts. The graduation, the barbecue, the phone call, the silence that followed. Marguerite had been quiet for a long moment. Then, you're not wrong to be angry. I'm not angry, Oliver said, and realized it was true. I'm just done. Fair enough. I'll check in on you now and then, if that's all right. Someone should. She'd kept her word. A call every couple of months. Updates on extended family. News from Topeka. She never pushed him to reconcile, never suggested he was being too harsh. She just stayed in touch. It was through Marguerite that Oliver learned what was happening back home. Your sister and that boyfriend of hers moved back in with your parents. Marguerite mentioned one evening, her tone casual but meaningful. Temporarily, they say. Oliver had been making dinner, phone on speaker while he chopped vegetables. When, about 4 months ago, some story about Talia losing her job and needing to get back on her feet. Read supposedly looking for work, but well. She paused. Your mother seems happy to have her home. Oliver said nothing. They've got Talia handling the bills now. Marguerite continued. Denise says it's nice to have the help. Talia set up all their online banking, helped them organize their paperwork. Your mother brags about how responsible she's being. A cold awareness settled in Oliver's chest. That doesn't sound like Talia. No, Marguerite agreed quietly. It doesn't. 8 months later, Marguerite called again. It was a Thursday evening. Oliver was reviewing spreadsheets for work, his apartment quiet except for the hum of his computer. Oliver, honey, Marguerite said, her voice tight with something between anger and concern. I need to tell you something about your parents. He closed his laptop. What happened? Your sister and Red are gone. Disappeared. Took everything with them. The words hung in the air. Everything, Oliver asked. Bank accounts emptied. Savings gone. Your father's retirement account. What little was there, transferred out. They maxed out every credit card. Hell, they even transferred the title on your father's truck. Marguerite's voice cracked slightly. Harold went to get gas Tuesday morning and his car declined. That's how they found out. Oliver stood up, walked to his window. Outside, traffic moved normally. The world continued. How much, he asked. Everything, Oliver. Every cent. Your parents have maybe $100 in checking that Talia didn't have access to. They're broke. Completely broke. And Talia? Gone. Red too. Phone numbers disconnected. Social media accounts deleted. Police say there's nothing they can do because technically your parents gave Talia access to everything. Sign the papers. Handed over the passwords. All legal. Oliver absorbed this information with a strange calmness. Some distant part of him had known this was coming from the moment Marguerite mentioned Talia handling the bills. His sister had never been responsible. She'd been strategic. How are they? He asked. Not because he cared, but because the question seemed expected. Devastated. Your mother cries constantly. Harold's barely speaking. They lost the house, couldn't make the mortgage payment. They're staying with a friend right now, but that won't last long. Marguerite hesitated. Oliver, they're going to call you. I know. Are you going to answer? He watched headlights streak past on the street below. I don't know. You don't owe them anything, Marguerite said firmly. I want you to know that. After what they did. I know, Aunt Marguerite. Thank you for telling me. If you need anything, I'm fine. I'm always fine. After they hung up, Oliver sat in the dark for a long time. He thought about his sister, somewhere out there with her boyfriend, living off money that wasn't hers. He thought about his parents, who'd given her everything, trust, access, unconditional love, and learned too late what that cost. He thought about his graduation day, the empty seats, the phone call that ended with "stop acting like a victim." And he felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not vindication, not even the ghost of old anger. Just a deep, settled certainty that this was exactly what his family had chosen, even if they hadn't known they were choosing it at the time. The call came 6 days later. Oliver was at work, sitting in a conference room reviewing quarterly projections with his team. His phone vibrated in his pocket. Unknown number, but a Topeka area code. He didn't answer. The voicemail notification appeared. He ignored it until lunch, sitting alone in his truck in the parking lot with a sandwich he wasn't hungry for. He pressed play. His mother's voice filled the cab, trembling and small. Oliver, sweetheart, it's Mom. I know we haven't talked in a while, and I know you're probably still upset about before. But something terrible has happened. Your sister, her voice broke. She breathed and shakily. She's gone. She took everything. We lost the house. We have nothing. I didn't know who else to call. Please, honey, please call back. We just need help getting back on our feet, just until we can figure things out. Please. The message ended. Oliver deleted it and finished his sandwich. 3 days later, another call. Same number. This time he was home, making dinner. He let it ring through to voicemail. Harold's voice this time. Older than Oliver remembered. Tired. Oliver, it's your dad. I know. Look, I know things haven't been great between us. But this is serious. Your sister ruined us. We're trying to bounce back, but we need some help. Just temporary. Just to get stable. Call me back. Oliver blocked the number. 2 weeks passed. A different number called. He answered without thinking, distracted by a work email he was reading. Oliver. Harold's voice again, different now. Desperate. Don't hang up. Please. Just listen. Oliver closed his laptop slowly. I'm listening. We need help. Your mother's working retail, part-time, barely making anything. I can't. My health isn't great, Oliver. The stress. We lost everything. The house is gone. Talia took. I know what she took. Oliver's voice was level, empty. Aunt Marguerite told me. Then you understand. You understand we need. What you need and what I'm going to give you are different things, Dad. Silence. Then, quieter. We're your parents. You were, Oliver agreed. Past tense seems appropriate. What's that supposed to mean? Oliver stood, walked to his living room window. The city spread out below him, anonymous and indifferent. It means you chose. Years ago, every time Talia needed something and I didn't. Every time you made her feelings more important than mine. Every time you expected me to understand, to be responsible, to be fine. That's not. We didn't. Harold stumbled over his words. She's family, Oliver. So was I. Oliver's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. On graduation day, remember the barbecue? The silence on the other end was absolute. I was standing in a parking lot. Oliver continued, calm and precise, in a borrowed tie, about to walk across the stage. And you told me to stop acting like a victim because Talia threw a party. That was... Harold's voice came out rough. That was different. She had people coming over. We couldn't just... You could have. You chose not to. That wasn't a mistake, Dad. It was a decision. You decided her casual backyard party mattered more than my graduation. You decided I could handle being alone. You decided I didn't need you. We made an error in judgment. No. Oliver cut him off. You revealed who you were, and who I was to you. I'm not angry about it anymore. I just learned from it. He could hear his father breathing, irregular and strained. I can't help you, Oliver said simply. Can't or won't. Does it matter? Oliver asked. Either way, you taught me this. You taught me that family is whoever you choose to show up for. You chose Talia. Every single time. Even when it meant not showing up for me. She's gone. Harold's voice cracked, desperation bleeding through. She stole from us. She destroyed us. I know. Aunt Marjorie told me. And you don't care? Disbelief. Anger. Pain. I care, Oliver said quietly, exactly as much as you cared on May 14th when I graduated college. Which is to say, not enough to do anything about it. That's cruel. No, Dad. It's consistent. You get from me what I got from you. Nothing. He heard his mother in the background now, crying, begging Harold to give her the phone. Your mother is falling apart, Harold said, playing his last card. She cries herself to sleep every night. This is killing her. Oliver closed his eyes. He didn't feel triumph. He didn't feel pity. He felt only the weight of years of being invisible settling into finality. Then she knows what it feels like, he said softly, to give everything to someone and have them disappear. He ended the call and blocked that number 2. The months that followed brought a strange kind of peace to Oliver's life. He moved through his days with the same steady routine. Work, gym, home, weekend hikes in the state parks outside Springfield, dinners with co-workers who'd become friends, a casual relationship with a woman named Elena who worked in accounting. Nothing serious, but warm, comfortable. His parents didn't try to contact him again. Not directly, anyway. Marjorie called monthly with updates he didn't ask for, but somehow needed to hear. They moved into a trailer park on the east side, she told him one evening. 2-bedroom. Your father's friend from the warehouse is letting them stay cheap until they get sorted. Sorted, Oliver repeated, the word tasting hollow. I'm using their words, not mine, Marjorie said dryly. They're not getting sorted. Your mother's working at a dollar store. Harold's health is deteriorating. He had a scare last month, thought it was a heart attack. Turned out to be a panic attack, but still. Oliver said nothing. They're bitter, Marjorie continued. Not at Talia, at you. That got his attention. At me, they tell people you abandoned them. That you're cruel. Heartless. They've rewritten the whole story in their heads. In their version, they were loving parents who made one small mistake, and you're punishing them forever for it. Oliver laughed, short and humorless. One small mistake. I've tried talking sense into your mother. She doesn't want to hear it. She's convinced you owe them. That blood means something. Blood means exactly as much as they taught me it means. I know, honey. I just wanted you to be aware. In case they try something. Like what? I don't know. Your mother's desperate. Desperate people do unpredictable things. Talia resurfaced 7 months after disappearing. Not to her parents. Not to Oliver. But to the world in the careless way people did when they thought they were untraceable. Marjorie sent Oliver a screenshot. Instagram. A beach photo. Talia in a bikini. Rhett behind her with a beer, both smiling like people without a care in the world. The location tag said Florida Keys. The account was under a different name. Something generic, nothing connected to her past. But it was her. Same laugh in her eyes. Same thoughtless joy. She posted this public, Marjorie's text said, not even trying to hide. Oliver stared at the photo for a long time. His sister, somewhere warm and beautiful, living off money she'd stolen from 2 people who'd given her everything. Not a trace of guilt in that smile. Not a shadow of consequence. He deleted the screenshot and went back to work. A year after the phone call stopped, they tried one more time. Not through direct contact, through a letter. It arrived on a Saturday morning, forwarded through Marjorie because they didn't have his current address. The handwriting on the envelope was his mother's, neat, careful cursive that Oliver remembered from birthday cards and grocery lists. He sat at his kitchen table, coffee going cold, staring at the unopened envelope. Elena was in the shower. They'd spent Friday night at her place and come back to his apartment for breakfast. She was humming something off-key, oblivious to the small bomb sitting between the salt shaker and the fruit bowl. Oliver opened the letter. It was 3 pages, handwritten on lined notebook paper. Dear Oliver, I don't know if you'll read this, but I have to try. Your father and I are not doing well. I know you know that. I know Marguerite keeps you updated. But knowing something secondhand isn't the same as understanding what it feels like to live it. We wake up every day in a place that isn't home. Your father's health is failing. He won't see a doctor because we can't afford it. I work 6 days a week at a job that pays less in a month than we use to spend on groceries. We eat food from the church pantry. We've sold everything we had left to sell. Your sister destroyed us. She betrayed us in ways I still can't fully understand. We trusted her. We gave her everything. And she took it all and left us with nothing. Not even a goodbye. But Oliver, you could help us. You have a good job. You build a life. We're not asking for much. Just enough to get by. Enough to survive. We're your parents. We raised you. We gave you a home, food, and education. Doesn't that count for something? I know you're angry about graduation. I know we should have been there. I think about that day constantly. If I could go back and change it, I would. Your father and I made a mistake. We chose wrong. But does one mistake really warrant this? Does one bad decision mean you can watch us suffer and do nothing? I think about you every day. I miss you. I miss my son. I miss having a family that isn't broken into pieces. Please, Oliver, please help us. Not because we deserve it, but because you're better than this. You're better than your sister. You're the responsible one. You always have been. You know what's right. We need you. Love, Mom. Oliver read the letter twice. Then he folded it carefully, put it back in the envelope, and set it aside. Elena came out of the bathroom in one of his t-shirts. Hair damp, smile easy. Coffee ready? Yeah, just made a fresh pot. She poured herself a cup, leaned against the counter. You okay? You look tense. Letter from my mom. Elena knew the basics. Not everything, but enough. She'd asked once, early on, why he never talked about his family. He'd given her the abbreviated version, and she nodded and never pushed for more. What did she want? Elena asked carefully. Money. Help. Forgiveness. The usual. Oliver stood, took his own cup to the sink. Same story, different format. You going to respond? No. You sure? He turned to face her. They're painting me as the villain. In their version, I'm cruel for not saving them from consequences they created. In their version, one mistake, that's what she called it, a mistake, erases years of being invisible. Elena set her cup down, crossed her arms. What do you think? I think they're reaping what they sowed. I think they chose Talia over me so many times it became habit. And when Talia finally revealed who she really was, they didn't like the results. But that's not my responsibility to fix. No, Elena agreed quietly. It's not. My mom wrote that I'm better than this. Better than watching them suffer. Oliver's voice was calm, almost analytical. But they watched me suffer. They watched me struggle through college, sleep in my truck, work myself to exhaustion. And they didn't help because they didn't think I needed it. I was responsible. I could handle it. And now they need you to be responsible for them too. Exactly. Oliver picked up the letter, held it for a moment, then dropped in the trash. But I'm responsible for myself now. Only myself. Elena walked over, wrapped her arms around him from behind. I'm proud of you, you know, for knowing your limits, for not giving in. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being petty. You're not. You're being consistent. He turned in her arms, kissed her forehead. Thanks. Come on, let's make breakfast. You promised me pancakes. They made breakfast. Oliver didn't think about the letter again that day. Another year passed, then another. Oliver got promoted. He moved to a better apartment, then bought a small house on the outskirts of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. It had trees, space, silence. A front porch where he could drink coffee in the morning without the sounds of traffic. A yard where nothing was expected to grow except what wanted to grow naturally. Elena moved in after 2 years together. They got a dog, a rescue mutt with anxiety issues and a tendency to howl at sirens. They named him Chester. Life was simple, steady good. Marguerite called less frequently now. The updates were always the same. His parents were surviving, barely. Harold's health continued to decline. Denise worked, cried, blamed Oliver to anyone who would listen. Talia was still gone, still silent, still living somewhere unknown with money that wasn't hers. Your mother tells people you're dead to her, Marguerite said during one call. That she has no son. Good, Oliver replied. That makes two of us. You really don't feel anything? Not even a little guilty? Oliver was standing on his back porch, watching Chester chase a squirrel around the yard. The air smelled like pine and rain. I feel exactly what they taught me to feel, which is nothing. Marguerite sighed. You're not wrong to feel that way. I just worry it'll eat at you eventually. It won't, Oliver said with certainty. I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. I'm just absent, the same way they were absent when I needed them. It's fair. It's balanced. It's finished. All right, honey. I just wanted to check. I appreciate that, Aunt Marguerite. I really do. But I'm fine. Better than fine. I'm free. And he was. 5 years after his graduation, Oliver hung a single photograph on the wall of his home office. It was his graduation photo. Cap and gown. Diploma in hand. Smile uncertain but genuine. Behind him, the stadium where hundreds of families had celebrated. Where it should have been, but wasn't. Elena found him looking at it one evening. Why do you keep that up? She asked, not judging, just curious. Oliver considered the question. Reminder. Of what? That when they chose a barbecue over this, they chose everything that came after. Every consequence. Every hardship. They made their choice. And I made mine. To walk away. To walk forward, Oliver corrected. There's a difference. Elena nodded slowly. Do you ever think about what would have happened if they'd shown up that day? Sometimes. Maybe we'd have some kind of relationship. Maybe I would have felt obligated to help when Talia destroyed them. Maybe I'd be sending them money every month out of guilt. You don't sound like you regret the way it turned out. I don't. They needed me to be responsible for myself, so they could focus on her. Fine. I became completely responsible for myself. And when that meant I wasn't available to be responsible for them later, they called it cruel. He turned away from the photo. But it's not cruel. It's just the natural conclusion of the equation they wrote. You're really at peace with this? Completely. And he was. Because Oliver Rowan had learned the most important lesson his family could teach him. That you teach people how to treat you. That love without action is just a word. That responsibility works both ways. His parents had taught him he didn't matter. He'd simply believe them. And when they needed him to believe something different, he'd already learned the lesson too well to forget. 7 years after his graduation, on a quiet Tuesday in October, Oliver received one final message. Not from his parents. From a number he didn't recognize, with a Topeka area code he'd learned to ignore. But this text was different. This is Sarah Crenshaw, nurse at Mercy Hospital. Your father, Harold Rowan, is in critical condition. He's listed you as emergency contact. Please call. Oliver stared at the message for a full minute. Elena was at work. Chester was asleep at his feet. The house was silent except for the tick of the kitchen clock. He didn't call. Instead, he texted back. Please remove me as emergency contact. I am not available. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, are you sure? His condition is serious. I'm sure. Contact Marguerite Walsh instead. He included Marguerite's number. The dots appeared one more time, then stopped. No further response came. Oliver set his phone down and returned to the work email he'd been drafting. His hands were steady. His breath was even. He felt no pull toward Topeka, no urgency to drop everything and rush to a hospital bedside. His father was dying, and Oliver was making dinner plans. Later that evening, Marguerite called. The hospital reached me, she said, her voice heavy. About Harold. I know. They texted me first. You're not coming. It wasn't a question. No. Marguerite was quiet for a moment. He's probably not going to make it through the night, Oliver. This is your last chance to, I don't know, make peace. Say goodbye. Whatever you need. I don't need anything from him, Aunt Marguerite. I haven't needed anything from him since I was 7 years old asking to play soccer. He's your father. Biologically, Oliver agreed. In every other way, he stopped being my father the day he chose a barbecue over my graduation. He made that choice knowing what it meant. Or he should have. Your mother's there. At the hospital. She's hysterical. Keeps saying both her children abandoned her. One of her children stole from her and disappeared. The other one left after being ignored for years. Those aren't the same thing. I know that. You know that. But she's grieving Oliver. She's losing her husband, and she lost me years before this. Oliver interrupted, not unkindly. That was her choice, too. I'm sorry my father is dying. I'm sorry my mother is in pain. But their suffering doesn't obligate me to suffer with them. Marjorie sighed, long and weary. You've really made peace with this. I have. Completely. All right. I won't push. I just wanted you to know. In case you regretted it later. I won't. But thank you for telling me. You're a better person than I think you give yourself credit for, Oliver. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just a person who learned what he was taught. Harold died at 3:47 a.m. on October 18th. Marjorie called with the news. Oliver was already awake, couldn't sleep, had been reading in bed. He thanked her for letting him know, asked if his mother needed anything practical, funeral arrangements, financial help with burial costs. She needs your son, Marjorie said quietly. She has Talia. Talia's been gone for 7 years. You know that. Then she has the consequences of her choices. That's what I have. It's only fair she has them too. He wired Marjorie money for funeral expenses. Not much. Enough to make sure his father was buried with basic dignity. He asked Marjorie not to tell his mother where the money came from. He did not attend the funeral. Instead, he took Elena on a weekend trip to the Ozarks. They hiked, ate at small diners, sat on the cabin porch in the evening with glasses of wine. He didn't mention his father's death until Sunday evening, as they were packing to leave. My dad died Wednesday, he said, folding a shirt into his bag. Elena stopped mid-motion. What? Oliver, why didn't you say anything? Because there was nothing to say. He died. I knew he would eventually. It doesn't change anything. Still, that's a big thing. Not for me. He zipped his bag closed. He stopped being my father a long time ago. This is just the biology catching up with the reality. Elena studied his face, searching for cracks in his composure. She wouldn't find any. There weren't any to find. Are you really okay? She asked. I'm fine. I promise. I know it sounds cold, but I grieved this relationship years ago. When I left. When I changed my number. When I realized they'd never really seen me as anything more than a low-maintenance kid who didn't need attention. The grief is old. His death is just closure. If you need anything, I don't, but I love you for offering. They drove home in comfortable silence. Chester slept in the back seat. The autumn trees blurred past the windows, their leaves turning gold and orange and red. Oliver felt no weight, no guilt, no lingering questions, just the quiet satisfaction of a man who'd drawn a boundary and held it, no matter what storms came to test it. 2 months after Harold's funeral, a package arrived at Oliver's house. It was small, wrapped in brown paper, no return address. Just his name and current address written in unfamiliar handwriting. Oliver opened it carefully. Inside was a single photograph, old and faded. Him as a child, maybe 8 years old, sitting at the kitchen table in a house on Cedar Lane. Behind him, slightly out of focus, were his parents. His mother was laughing at something. His father had his hand on Oliver's shoulder. On the back, in his mother's handwriting. Before everything broke. Before you stop being mine. No note. No explanation. Just a photo and those words. Oliver looked at it for a long time. He saw the boy he'd been. Uncertain. Already learning to be small. Already understanding that love in his family was conditional, rationed, distributed unequally. He saw his parents, younger, not yet worn down by their own choices. He saw a moment that looked like family, but had never really been one. Oliver took the photo to his office and placed it in his desk drawer. Not on the wall, not in the trash, just away, archived, acknowledged but not displayed. That evening, he drafted a single email to his mother's address, the one Marjorie had given him years ago, the one he'd never used. Mom, I received the photograph. I understand what you're trying to say with it, that things were good once, that we were a family before I broke it by leaving. But that's not what that photo shows me. I look at that picture, and I see a kid who was already learning he didn't matter as much as his sister. A kid who was already being trained to need less Want less, be less. You're grieving, Dad. You're alone. Talia is gone, and I'm gone, and you're trying to understand how you ended up here. I'll tell you. You ended up here because for my entire childhood, you made choices. You chose Talia's dance lessons over my soccer. You chose her feelings over mine. You chose her casual barbecue over my college graduation. You chose to call me cruel when I left instead of asking why I left. Every single time you had to choose between us, you chose her. And I learned from that. I learned I wasn't worth choosing. I learned I had to be completely self-sufficient because no one else was going to show up for me. So when you needed me to show up for you, I simply applied the lesson you taught me. I don't hate you. I don't wish you harm. I genuinely hope you find some kind of peace or stability. But I won't be the one to provide it. You used up your chances with me, one small abandonment at a time, until there was nothing left. That photo you sent doesn't make me sad. It makes me grateful. Grateful I got out. Grateful I learned early that your love was conditional. Grateful I built a life where I'm chosen, valued, and seen. I have that now. With people who show up, who keep promises, who remember important days, who don't make me beg for basic consideration. You taught me what family shouldn't be. I'll always be grateful for that lesson, even if it hurt to learn it. Don't contact me again. Oliver. He read it 3 times, then deleted it without sending. Some things didn't need to be said. His absence was statement enough. On the 8th anniversary of his graduation, Oliver took the day off work. He and Elena drove to a nearby park, brought a picnic, sat under trees that were older than his grudges. Chester ran circles around them, deliriously happy with the space and freedom. 8 years since graduation, Oliver said, watching the dog play. Since the day, everything clarified. You never talk about regretting how things went, Elena observed. That's because I don't. Never? Not even a little. Oliver considered this honestly. Sometimes I regret that it happened at all, that my parents were who they were, that I had to learn those lessons. But I don't regret my response to it. I don't regret leaving. I don't regret refusing to help. Those are the right choices. Even with your dad dying, even with your mom alone. Especially then, Oliver said firmly, because those consequences weren't random. They were the direct result of decisions my parents made. Repeatedly. For years. They built this outcome one choice at a time. He picked up a stick and threw it for Chester, who bounded after it with enthusiasm that never wavered. My father died, and I felt nothing, Oliver continued. Not because I'm cold, but because the relationship was already dead. Had been for years. His body just caught up with what had already happened between us. And your mom. My mom sends me old photos and wants me to remember a time that was never as good as she thinks it was. She wants me to save her from consequences that she created. But that's not love. That's desperation. And I don't owe her my life just because she gave me life. Elena leaned her head on his shoulder. You're remarkably clear about all this. I've had time to think about it. Oliver wrapped his arm around her. And therapy. Lots of therapy. She laughed. Fair. I used to wonder if I was being too harsh, Oliver admitted. If one mistake, even a big one like missing graduation, justified everything that followed. But then I realized it wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern. The graduation was just the moment the pattern became undeniable. And now I'm 31 years old. I own a house. I have a job I'm good at. A woman I love. A dog who's neurotic but loyal. Friends who show up. A life that's mine. He gestured at the park around them, the open sky, the space to breathe. I built this without them. Not despite them, without them. And it's good. It's really, really good. No regrets. None. Chester returned with the stick, dropped it at Oliver's feet, and waited expectantly. Oliver threw it again, watched the dog sprint away. My parents taught me the most important lesson I ever learned, he said quietly. That you can't make people choose you. You can't make them see you. You can't make them show up. All you can do is decide what you'll accept and what you won't. And you decided you wouldn't accept being invisible. Exactly. I decided I deserved better. And then I found better. Elena kissed his cheek. I'm glad you did. Me too. They stayed at the park until sunset, then went home to the house Oliver had bought with money he'd earned, in a town where no one expected him to be responsible for anyone's choices but his own. That night, he stood in his office, looking at the photograph on the wall. Him in his cap and gown. Alone, but standing. Graduated. Successful despite everything. The photo his mother had sent remained in the drawer. Old history. Old pain. Old patterns that had no place in his present. Oliver turned off the light and went to bed. He didn't think about his parents. Didn't wonder if his mother was okay. Didn't feel the tug of obligation or guilt or regret. He just slept, peaceful and whole, in a life he'd built from scratch after his family chose a barbecue over his biggest day. They'd made their choice, and Oliver had learned to live with the freedom that came from accepting it. The end came not with drama, but with silence. Marjorie called one last time, 3 years after Harold's death. "Your mother passed away," she said simply. "Heart attack. Quick." She didn't suffer. Oliver was at his desk, reviewing contracts. The news registered with the same emotional weight as weather report. "Thank you for telling me," he said. "There's going to be a funeral. Small. I know you won't come, but I wanted to extend the invitation anyway." "You're right. I won't come, but I appreciate you letting me know." "Oliver," Marjorie hesitated. "She never stopped talking about you. Right until the end. She had this idea that you'd come back someday, that you'd forgive her and it would all be okay again. Did she ever understand why I didn't?" "No, she couldn't. In her mind, she was the victim. You and Talia both abandoned her. That's how she told the story." "Of course she did." No bitterness in his voice. Just recognition. She needed me to be the villain, so she didn't have to be responsible for her own choices. "She was your mother, Oliver. She was Talia's mother. I was just the kid who happened to also live there." Marjorie sighed. "I won't argue with you. I know why you feel the way you do. I just thought you should know she's gone. I'm glad you told me. Truly. And Marjorie, thank you. For all these years. For being the one person who stayed in touch without trying to fix everything. You deserve someone on your side, honey." "I did. And I'm grateful it was you." After they hung up, Oliver sat with the information for a few minutes. His mother was dead. Both parents gone. Talia still missing, still living somewhere with stolen money. The family that raised him had dissolved completely. He felt nothing. Not relief. Not sadness. Not closure, because he'd already closed that door years ago. Just nothing. That evening, he told Elena over dinner. "My mom died." Elena set down her fork. "Oh, Oliver, I'm so sorry." "Don't be. I'm fine." "Are you sure?" "Even if you were estranged, losing a parent. I lost her years ago when it mattered. This is just paperwork catching up." Elena reached across the table, took his hand. "Okay, but if you need to talk." "I know. Thank you." He squeezed her hand. "But honestly, I'm okay. Better than okay. I made my peace with all of this a long time ago." They finished dinner, watched a movie, went to bed. Oliver didn't attend his mother's funeral. He sent flowers anonymously, paid for by Marjorie, with no card attached. It was more than his parents had given him on his graduation day. It was exactly as much as they'd earned. At 35, Oliver Rowan lived a life that bore no resemblance to the one he'd grown up in. His house in Eureka Springs was paid off. His career had progressed steadily. He was now a senior analyst, respected by colleagues, valued by his company. Elena had become his wife in a small ceremony attended by friends who'd chosen to be there, not family obligated by blood. On the wall of his office hung a single photograph, himself in a cap and gown, holding a diploma, standing alone. Visitors sometimes asked about it. "Graduation photo?" they'd say. "Where's your family?" And Oliver would smile, calm and certain, and say, "They were busy that day. It taught me everything I needed to know." No elaboration. No bitterness. Just fact. Because the truth was simple. His family had chosen a casual barbecue over his biggest achievement. And in doing so, they'd chosen every consequence that followed. The distance. The absence. The refusal to help. The permanent severing of ties. Oliver hadn't taken revenge. He'd simply accepted the lesson they'd taught him and applied it consistently. You show me I don't matter? Fine. Then my resources don't matter to you. You show me you won't show up for me? Fine. Then I won't show up for you. You teach me that family is conditional? Fine. Then my support is conditional too. It was fair. It was balanced. It was exactly what they'd modeled for him his entire childhood. And if they didn't like the outcome, well, that was the cost of the education they provided. Oliver stood at his office window one evening, looking out at trees that belonged to him, land that he'd earned, a life that he'd built from nothing. His parents were dead. His sister was gone. The family that raised him had imploded under the weight of their own choices. And Oliver was fine, more than fine. He was free, free from obligation, free from guilt, free from the belief that blood alone created duty. He'd learned the hardest lesson of his life in a parking lot on graduation day. Phone pressed to his ear, hearing his father tell him to stop acting like a victim. And he'd learned it well. So well that when his family finally needed him to remember he was their son, he simply remembered what they'd taught him instead, that he didn't matter enough to choose. And if he didn't matter enough to choose then, he didn't matter enough to save now. It was cruel only if you forgot the years of context that preceded it. It was fair if you remembered that consequences compound over time. It was just if you believed that people earn what they receive. Oliver believed all of that. And so he lived his life, peaceful and whole, in the house he'd bought with the success he'd earned, surrounded by people who actually chose him. The photograph on the wall remained where it was, not as a wound, but as a reminder that the day his family chose wrong, they chose everything that followed. And Oliver had simply accepted their choice. That was all. That was enough. That was justice.